It does feel like things are escalating here incredibly quickly. Just 2 days ago, I had to leave a frontline area where we were interviewing civilians because the shelling was getting closer and closer to us, and I could feel it in my body. Shrapnel was like littering an area where we were working yesterday. Uh, Things are escalating here like incredibly quickly, and to be honest, this is probably some of the first times that I've been here that I'm genuinely starting to feel incredibly scared about the potential for full-scale war to break out, even potentially within the next 24 hours.
You've witnessed some of these mass evacuations. What is the sentiment amongst those people? Do they feel that those evacuations are necessary?
Well, I've not worked in the non-government controlled territories, but from accounts that I've been reading and journalism work that other people are conducting on the Russian side of the border, like within Russian territory in Rostov region, some people have been sitting on buses there for 24 hours. Some of them, excuse me, some of them have disabled children who have been waiting in buses for places to sleep. It's still very cold around here. Based on the interviews I've seen of people, they're complaining about they're forced evacuations, they're not voluntary. Males have been required to remain in the occupied territories and prepare to fight. So I think for all intents and purposes, a lot of people, they don't want this. They don't want more war in the Donbass on both sides of the front line, I might add.
Do people believe Russia when they say this is preparation for an attack on them?
It's a really good question. And to be honest, every person we speak to has different answers. I interviewed one man. He said to me, well, they tell us in Donbass that we're part of Ukraine, but we don't feel part of Ukraine. My life is destroyed. I don't have a job. Uh, I can't go to work because his job was in the occupied territories. Some people that we interviewed yesterday think that Ukraine is being used as a political pawn by the American government, and essentially this is actually a war between Russia and America, uh, and Ukraine is the means through which it's conducted. So it, some people genuinely think it's impossible that this war will happen. Even my friend I'm living with now, he lived in this city when it was struck by rockets in 2015. This city was previously occupied, and he even thinks it's impossible that this could happen. So someone with first-hand experience of what the war means in this area, even he can't believe that there would be this mass-scale invasion. Uh, the sentiment that I am sort of getting is that people aren't prepared for a mass-level invasion, but a lot of people seem to think that there's going to be dramatic events in the Donbass where war has already been going on for 8 years. A huge flashpoint event seems incredibly likely at this time, and I think there's a lot of concern that if there was a significant increase in fighting, that would actually be used as the pretense for Russia's military to move into Ukrainian territory again.
Does the language around it concern you then? I mean, you're speaking then about separatists, but what about even saying war's going to break out? As you said, it's already been going on there for several years, or the idea of Russia invading when there's been attempts before.
Yeah, I mean that's a very fair point. I think the reason I say this is, as you mentioned, there is a currently implemented, albeit poorly, series of ceasefires. Historically, they're still fighting every day. There was shelling, grenades, snipers, but largely it was effective. Early in the history of the conflict in 2014 and 2015, hundreds of people were being killed regularly. The battles were mass scale. Huge artillery barrages, tanks were moving around. The front line was incredibly dynamic. There was one event where a large group of Ukrainian soldiers were essentially trapped in a how would I call it, in a cauldron, in a kettle, and some people estimate thousands of people might have been killed. So there's a ceasefire at the moment. Sadly, people are still dying, civilians and military personnel, but this concept of all-out war, I don't think people are ready for what that means. War in urban environments is incredibly brutal. These events have taken place before. Uh, if all-out war was to break out, if the ceasefire was to completely fall apart, because it's already ineffectual, uh, I just think it would be catastrophic. I personally, I can't even fathom what it would mean. And as I mentioned before, I'm starting to feel afraid about the actual potential for this to happen because it did seem like maybe rumors and I don't know, almost extreme. It was like the most extreme case, but now the most extreme case seems like the most likely course of action.
Are you safe, Bryce?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't really, I don't even know what that means in this context. Like
Right.
when we go to the front line and interview civilians, I feel like I have an obligation to do this work as a journalist. I'm on the ground here giving a voice to people, and I'm incredibly proud of the work that I'm doing. But I also know, I know people who have been killed in the Donbass, not journalists, soldiers. I've been talking with people who have then disappeared, and you don't hear from them. And later you find out, yeah, a rocket-propelled grenade went into his face. Even here, 30 kilometers or something away from some parts of the actual fighting and front line, I'm scared that I might go to sleep and honestly maybe not wake up or wake up to war because again this city was struck by rockets which were launched from tens of kilometers away, I think 40 kilometers or something, when the attack took place. So I know it's not safe being in a war generally, but the reality of conventional warfare is if you're anywhere in sort of the area of operation, you're not safe at all. It doesn't matter if you're at the front line
Right.
anymore. uh,
It's the nature of it.
Attacks can reach you anywhere.